Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. It's shop update time. First, you may notice Brett's bike in the background is missing something. So, we got on the dyno, started making some pulls, and, well, I have no boost control. I mean, I have a boost controller, and it'll turn up boost, but I put a little 6-pound spring in that thing, because it's a small spring that came with what he had, and it's making 15 goddamn pounds of boost. That is not what I want. That is top of what I want on gasoline, so he wouldn't have any boost control on gasoline. And to boot, that's going to be a little violent in first gear. It made 354 horsepower, 182 foot-pounds of torque at 10,200 RPM on both. So, it's not making any torque because it's just creep. But we have decided to make a move. So originally, I told him this was going to be a problem way back before I ever pulled the motor and started tearing it down. I told him he was going to have terrible wastegate priority, we were going to have boost control issues, and he decided at that time, he had ordered a plenum anyway already, that he was going to get a Scott Davis kit, 3076, V-band full merge, my favorite flavor. But after posting up the results, Scott even jumped in there and said, hey, I can fix that kit. And I, chatted with Brett, and Brett agreed, and we're going to fix this kit for now. Buy him some time before he's got to do any upgrades. So, what we're going to do, the header and hot side, the entire hot side is going to Scott. The reason we have boost creep issues, these are your runners, 1, 2, 3, 4, coming into the turbo. This is the wastegate. For one, the air is going that way and hitting that wall and going through the turbo. It is not going to turn around and go backwards. Same with this one, it's coming down this way. Some of it may go out the wastegate. This one, hard turn, comes down, hits here. A little bit might make it to the wastegate, but unlikely anything. And that one's not going to make it to the wastegate. These aren't even gated, technically. Okay? So the gate's not flowing. The gate's more than big enough, it's just not flowing. So what he's going to do is he's going to cut this off, fix that, cap it, come around back here, cut a hole right here, and run a tube at an angle down, and then turn and put the gate and have it go out. That's the fix. On top of the fixes we've already had, like the fact that there's the factory O2 sensor bung, which is against the block, and then someone added an O2 sensor bung here, which pointed at the wheel, and then I added an O2 sensor bung here, which tucks it nice and tight behind the radiator. So there's been a lot of fixes. But anyway, his hot side's off. I'm going to go ahead and pull the bike off the dyno and get it rolled aside as soon as I need to. Right now, I can just sit there for the moment. And that's that. Let's see, Selfish. Selfish is getting some chassis setup work. So we've gone ahead and started losing weight. I got upper triples changed out, clip-ons changed out, front end slammed. Scotty's going to cut the forks. I'm going to have the radiator cut. And then we're ditching the street exhaust and going Sidewinder. And we ditched the 24 volt, went to a big P10 750 cold cranking amp, which is more than enough to start this. If you really don't want to do 24 volt, that battery will start most every big boy motor there is. Okay? And it charges, unlike the 24 volt. I got to get a Tiger Tail on here and a few other things. She's back to short, and I need to get him to get a shock. Let's see. We got a whole list here. Let's see. So, rear brake is deleted, so I need a brake spacer, 90/80 front tire, ignition bypass, flat pan, shock, forks need cut, needs a seat pan, and the undertail. I'd like to go to a fuel cell and a tank shell. If anyone's got a tank shell for sale for a good cheap price, let me know. I've already found a fuel cell. I thought about dry blocking it. He doesn't want to dry block it. The Pulse P10, and then I'm looking at a set of velocity stacks. But we're not really doing anything mechanically, just a whole lot of chassis setup, because this bike's great, it's just the chassis sucks. Let's go down the row. You may notice all the bikes are shoved over here. One, I've got an engine coming in here in a minute, and two, I've got a car coming in tomorrow that I'm going to put a fuel pump in, and it'll be my new car. I'll let you guys know about that and show you that, because we're going to do a whole time-lapse. It's going to be the most satisfying time-lapse ever cleaning that thing. It is disgusting. This little red bike came in. It has 40 some odd, almost 50,000 miles on it. Never been touched. And he had it flashed by another shop. After that shop flashed it, he started smelling gas a lot. And it was just the mileage went to shit. And then it started smoking. Okay? So, That shop's Flash. I went ahead and pulled off the ECU. It's a very popular shop. A lot of people have heard of it. A lot of people vouch for it. Anyway, mistakes happen, and I think he may have flashed the incorrect tune for the bike on it. He flashed what I would call a fuel map for like a 1441 or bigger on it. This is a stock motor, stock airbox, stock stacks, stock exhaust except for a slip-on, and it's just as restrictive as stock, so this bike is stock as stock gets. I mean, it's an M4 slip-on, but it's M4 duals, so the restriction on that isn't the mufflers, it's the frickin' header. He had 15% extra fuel in the cruising RPM. That is a lot of extra fuel in the cruising RPM. May have made it ride smoother, but it also caused a lot of excess fuel in the cylinders, and I believe that it took a set of rings that were already on the edge because of the mileage. There's a lot of mileage on this bike. Keep that in mind. I think it took a set of rings that were already on the edge and finished them off. I'm pretty sure it washed the cylinders down and it kind of chewed on the rings a little bit, and that's why it's starting to smoke. But we're doing a top end on that. So last year he had the transmission repaired. While they were there, they rolled bearings in and all that good jazz. So the bottom end is fresh. So all I got to do is top end. So I'm going to pull the head off, do valve seals, inspect the valves, valve springs, and all new gaskets, obviously. I'm going to inspect the timing chain, see if it needs replaced. If it does, I'll let them know, and we'll add that to the bill. I'm going to inspect the timing guides. Most likely they need replaced. They're probably cracked. Head gasket, obviously. New OEM rings, as long as the skirts aren't too worn. If they are, I have good low-mileage OEM pistons in-house, so I'll put those in. And then base gasket, obviously. Hopefully the cylinder's still in round and such. Otherwise, I do have good Gen 1 cylinders here. Stock bore. I can always throw it together with that. That's about all, guys. Everything else in here is in storage. Jimmy's bike is most of the way wired up. I got my power distribution and such set up. Tidied up a bunch. I've got a lot of wiring to shorten up. Like all this exposed wire, that is because I just looped it to where it needed to reach and then cut the loom off. So I knew how far I needed to cut it, and then I'll slip it back together. So I'll cut it, stagger my seams, solder it together, heat shrink it, all that good jazz. Then I got to put the nitrous kit back on, the fuel system back on, and this should be ready to rock and roll. I'll probably put it up on the dyno, make a whack quick motor just to double check everything, make sure everything behaves, make a whack on dope, and call it good. And this girl will be ready to go to the track for next year. After that, I'll go ahead, put the frickin' fairings back on it, drain the water out of it because it's got just straight water in it, and store it for the winter. He's going to pick it up in the spring. Eric's, I've got completely stripped. Motor is clean. Everything's done except for the trans case that's sitting there. I'm working on cleaning that up now. I deleted the oil cooler block-off kit he had. It was a loop kit. I don't like them, so I drilled it, and I'm going to do hard block-offs. But I've got that stripped down to be cleaned out. Got a motor over here on the table, needs a shift fork. I got a swing arm here for Eddie. Eddie never did show up. Don't know if he's ever going to show up. Don't really care at this point. Supposed to have Jerry Jenkins bringing his bike. He spun a bearing towards the end of the season last year and hasn't raced all year. He had situations come up that I understand. Finances weren't there, but now apparently they are. Says he has the money in hand, so I'm going to give him the best deal I can give him on a stock-to-stock rebuild. I got a good crank. I got good rods. Got a brand new oil pump. We'll roll it together with all new bearings and gaskets and send it out the door. That one, if it wasn't going to have dope on it, would get a warranty. There is no warranty once you put nitrous to a motor. Now, it'll probably take all the nitrous you want to throw at it. Not all of it, but 100 shot easy. Because I'm going to dust the pistons and get it ready for nitrous. Don't believe he has valve springs yet. And I believe, if I remember right, I quoted him for adding valve springs and studs. Then he could throw a bunch of nitrous to it. But anyway, that's what I got going on, guys. I'm going to go ahead and plug my phone back in before it dies. This has been a 10-minute rant. And tomorrow, y'all get to see my 2002 Taurus.